Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you all again after such a long time since the last Development Management Committee, but I'm sure that'll improve as we go along for the next few meetings. I'll just go through the preliminaries first. Members of the public are entitled to take photographs, full audio record and report on all public meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies, Regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Notice of these rights will be given verbally at the meeting, as said. Emergency evacuation procedure, for those that don't know which way it is, it's turn left, follow the green emergency exit sign to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St George's Square. Any apologies for absence tonight? Okay, thank you. Minutes of the 25th of October. Okay with those? Seems a long time ago now. Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act. Any disclosure of interest tonight?
No disclosures, Chair.
Any urgent business?
No urgent business, Chair.
So I'll just I'll go to agenda item 9 and we'll deal with the planning application first. So 92 Milner's Court, excluding blocks 33, 52, 93, 96. Is Andy McDougal.
Please don't, Chair.
Correct. Yes. I am here. Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'll ask the officer to introduce the report first. Then there may be questions by members. Then I'll bring you in, and you've got up to 5 minutes to speak in support of the application.
Absolutely fine. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just let these two stragglers get seated first.
Just about in time.
Just about in time, yeah. Yeah, we're dealing with the planning application first, and then we'll do the other matters afterwards. So page 25, and when you settle down, I'll ask Nyla to start. Okay, Nyla, ready when you are.
Good evening, Chair and members. This application relates to 1 to 92 Milner's Court, Milner's Way. The application site comprises of a broadly L-shaped parcel of land which contains flatted development known as Milner's Court. There are 7 flatted blocks in this development labelled A, B, C, D. Oh, sorry, go back to the other. Yeah, A, B, C, D, E, F, and flats 33 to 52. Two of these blocks are excluded from the current scheme. That is block C and flats 33 to 52. The application site has an area of 0.79 hectares and is approximately 1.1 kilometres to the northwest of the town centre. Milner's Court is accessed off Milner's Way, which in turn leads into Biscot Road. The site is surrounded by residential properties on all sides. To the north are residential properties in Althorpe Road. Immediately to the east are residential properties in Milner's Ways. To the south are properties in Dorrington Close, and to the west are the properties in the Ridings. The flatted blocks within the site are all similar in appearance, ranging from 2 stories in height with a pitched roof up to 3 stories with a pitched roof. The current application is seeking full planning permission for the creation of 22 new flats by erecting new floor accommodation in the form of a mansard roof arrangement on the existing flatted blocks labelled A, B, D, E, and F. The proposal will provide 4 one-bedroom units and 18 two-bedroom flats, all 3-person units. I'm just going to go through the different blocks. So this is block A. This will provide 5 additional flats, 4 2-beds and 1 bed, again with the mansard roof arrangement. This is Block B. This will provide 6 flats, all 2-bed units. Block D. This will provide 3 flats, 2 2-beds and 1 1-bed. Block E. This is will provide 3 flats, 2 2-beds and 1 1-bed. And Block F. This will provide 5 additional flats, 4 2-beds and 1 1-bed. These are just some street elevations showing the development from Biscot Road and Dorrington Close. And this is street elevations from Althorpe Road and the Ridings. Existing communal block plan. Existing communal amenity areas and refuse storage stores are to be utilised as is the existing parking spaces on the site. In terms of the principle of the development and meeting the requirements of policy LLP 15, the proposal will not result in the loss of use for which there is a recognised local need. It is simply seeking to extend the existing residential buildings by utilising the new roof arrangements to provide the additional units. Although the proposal provides predominantly family units in the form of 2-bedroom, 3-person units, according to the latest housing figures, there is a greater identified need for 2-bed, 4-person units within the borough, which the current proposal fails to provide, resulting in the proposed mix of housing failing to meet the identified local housing needs and the objectives of policy LLP 15. The development also by virtue of its increased scale and massing design is considered to result in an over-intensive form of development that does not sit comfortably within the context of the surrounding built form, and accordingly the principle of the development is therefore not considered acceptable as it fails to meet the objectives of policy LLP 15. With regard to the impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area, the site is surrounded by a mixture of different types of residential dwellings and houses and flats, mainly 2-storey traditional hipped and gable properties. The existing flat blocks are also built in the same style and utilise a hip roof arrangement. The current proposal, by adding a mansard roof arrangement, which is similar to a scheme that was approved in 2018, but is subject to some changes to the internal layout, scale and design and fenestration details. The current scheme removes the dormer windows which were previously proposed. All these changes have an impact on the appearance of the proposed development. Whilst the 2018 approved scheme is a consideration, it's not deemed to be a material and overriding in terms of establishing the precedent in relation to the current proposal, given that the permission has expired and the fact that there has been changes in national policy with greater emphasis on high quality design. Furthermore, the policies of the adopted local plan, which had just been adopted when the previous scheme was submitted, have been robustly tested on appeal in terms of providing high quality design developments. In light of the foregoing and given the changes to the design, the proposed mansard roof arrangement under the current scheme, by virtue of its scale, massing and design, would represent a discordant form of development that would dominate the appearance of the existing blocks and would be at odds with the appearance of the surrounding built form, which is a traditional hip and gable properties. The recent government guidance on mansard roof supports upward extensions only when they are consistent with the height and form of neighbouring properties and when their external appearance accords with the original building. Although the site is self-contained and set back from the main street scene, it would still be visible from the rear gardens of the surrounding properties and would represent a form of development that fails to respond positively or enhance the character and appearance of the surrounding area. It is not a form of development that sits comfortably within the context of the surrounding built form. In terms of the effect on the amenities of the adjoining occupiers, as set out in paragraph 37 to 45 of the report, whilst the proposal would not have any adverse effect on the amenities of the adjoining properties in terms of loss of light and outlook, owing to the spatial distances and relationship, there would be some impact in terms of overlooking and loss of privacy due to the revised fenestration changes proposed in Block A and F. Both of these introduce bedroom windows in the respective elevations that increase the potential to directly overlook into the properties in Althorpe Road and Dorrington Close, leading to the loss of privacy to the detriment of the living environment of the occupiers of these properties. With respect to the living environment created for the future occupiers, paragraph 28 to 36 deals with the living environment created. Whilst majority of the flats within the development 19 meet the nationally described space standard, 3 flats numbers 4, 13 and 19 in blocks A, D and F fall short, creating an unacceptable living environment for future occupiers. In terms of the layout, all the flats follow a logical arrangement which would create a good living environment for the future occupiers. In terms of amenity provisions, the overall amenity provision for the existing and proposed flats is considered acceptable as it accords with the relevant standards. However, given the reduced internal floor area within 3 of the flats, it's considered that the resultant living environment created for future occupiers of these flats would be unacceptable. In terms of transport and parking implications, the current proposal is seeking no additional parking, but instead seeks to utilise the existing 109 car parking spaces within the development for both the existing flats, for the existing 98 flats and the proposed 22 flats. This would result in a shortfall of parking that would fail to accord with the maximum parking standards. However, as set out in the report, paragraphs 47 to 49, given the sustainable location of the site within walking distance of Bury Park and the town centre, and the limited identified usage of the existing car park means that there is surplus parking available on the site to meet the demands of the development. Furthermore, the highway development manager has identified no major highway implications from the proposed development. On the issue of affordable housing and planning contributions, the proposal would generate requirements for both affordable housing and planning contributions, as set out in paragraph 53 to 56 of the report. The applicant has not submitted a viability appraisal, but has indicated that if minded to approve, then this could be dealt by way of as part of a Section 106 agreement. To conclude, the proposal, by reason of the mix of housing, scale and design layout, represents a form of development that is unacceptable in principle and in terms of its impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area, amenities of adjoining occupiers and future residents, and therefore on that basis a refusal is recommended. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Nala. Any specific question by members? Councillor Franks.
Yeah, only one. I'm just a bit surprised that the failure to comply with the minimum room size standards isn't actually used as one of the reasons for refusal. We've agreed in this committee some time ago that we wouldn't grant anything that doesn't comply with the minimum floor space standards.
I think is in the reason for refusal of let me just go to the report. It's I think it says create limited internal floor area, creates a cramped. It's all part. Both the impact on the existing future residents is one reason for refusal, but it is mentioned in there. Let me just quickly get the.
Yeah, I picked that up. That you used the word cramped and all that. It just occurred to me that the actually specifically mentioning the minimum standards might help. But I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't.
Because we haven't got a specific policy on appeal, we're not really supported. So that's why we have to do it that way, because the inspectors have picked up on that and saying because you haven't got a specific policy relating to space standards, then it's really difficult to justify it on its own. So that's why it's done that way.
That sounds like a job for the local plan working party to me.
Okay, now I'll ask the Andy McDougall, the agent for the applicants, to speak now, please. You've got up to 5 minutes and members may wish to ask you some questions after you've finished.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Thank you for considering the application this evening. This submission follows the granting of planning permission in May 2019 and two subsequent non-material amendments in March and April 22. Unfortunately, with COVID and the increase in build costs, the scheme to deliver much needed housing and estate improvements was not possible within the permitted deadlines of the previous application. So in 2023, the applicant chose to resubmit the scheme. As officers note, the application seeks to provide predominantly family units. The scheme is almost identical in design, mass, bulk and scale to the scheme submitted and approved in 2019 and subsequently amended in 2022. There has been no material change in local planning policy. The U-turn taken by the council is, in my opinion, unreasonable. Further, the objection in principle raised surely cannot be right, having previously approved a very similar scheme on this site just 2 years ago under the same local plan policies. There has been no material change in local planning policy since the original decision. The design of the extension was accepted by this committee in 2019 with unanimous support. To refuse the scheme under the same policies is again likely to be found unreasonable when challenged as appeal. While I accept that there has been a change in national planning policy, it does not, in my opinion, change the approach to this application. Whereas before there was a drive for high quality design, today the same aspirations are expected under the guise of beautiful development. The previous scheme was considered by this committee to meet the tests of high quality design. To suggest today that the development does not meet that same test would be perverse. Comments regarding internal standards are noted, and the applicant would be willing to amend the scheme to ensure that internal standards were met. Noting that the internal layouts are again largely unchanged from those previously approved in 2019. This could be done through negotiation with officers post-committee. Of the 176 properties notified of this application, the application has received no objections, which I would suggest is remarkable, an indication of a level of approval within the community. The window locations are again almost identical to those proven acceptable in 2019. For the council to now consider that there will be issues of overlooking and loss of privacy cannot be justified. Matters of antisocial behaviour raised previously both by this committee and consultees has been acknowledged within this estate. The previous application secured additional lighting, landscaping, security features and additional measures pursuant to condition. In refusing this scheme this evening, the opportunities for estate regeneration would be lost. The applicant has the funds in place to ensure quick delivery of housing. I put it that refusing a scheme previously found acceptable in this site would be a lost opportunity for this estate. Should the application be refused, the decision will be tested at appeal. The change in emphasis in national policy is not, in my opinion, sufficient to now object to this application on matters of amenity and housing mix, are entirely local issues which can be dealt with which were dealt with under the exact same policies 4 years ago. With this in mind, I make the offer of working with officers to ensure matters of internal amenity and housing mix can be resolved, and this is offered by the applicant should councillors deem it appropriate to direct officers this evening to enter into discussions rather than refuse the scheme. The applicant would be willing to accept and agree to a deferment to allow these discussions to take place. Thank you for your time. I ask that you support the scheme this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant's agents? Councillor Bridgen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you mentioned in your comments that the previous application had secured, I think, funding or provisions for additional lighting, security, and other things. Yeah. Could you comment maybe on the comments from the Bedfordshire Police in relation to this application, where they've objected on the grounds of the proposed building and future occupants at the address have not been addressed within the documents provided with the application?
Yes, so the same approach was taken in the last application. In the previous scheme, the Thames Valley crime officer did raise objection, and it was felt that those comments would be overcome through additional details pursuant to condition. That was to include things like improved CCTV on the estate with direct line into the police should they require it, additional lighting, which again was to be put in partnership with advice from the police and any other officers that wanted an input on that. So previously it was to be done by condition. The same would be done for this one.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? There'll be a no. Yeah, Rumi.
I was just thinking, going back to the representative from the applicant, is there any, I just wanted to ask the officer, is there any scope for sitting down with the applicant to see where changes can be made, altered, to see if this plan could go through? I mean, we are in need of housing. We have on other sort of developments, we have got a lot of one-bedroom flats, and this is proposing to actually bring about more two-bedroom flats. So I was wondering, is there any scope to sit down with the applicant?
I think, Nyla, you have sat down with the applicants for a period of time, didn't you?
I think there may be scope, but I think it would need to be coming in as probably a pre-app discussions. I think we're we're not keen on the mansard roof arrangement, so we may have to look at other alternatives, but that may have to be done as part of further subsequent pre-app discussions with the applicant.
And just where the applicant says that they've had this same design approved previously.
It's not the same. There have been changes because previously it was dormers. Now it's more of a mansard roof arrangement. So it's not an identical scheme. But I think given that we have moved on a few years, we think we can get something in terms of design, something a bit more in keeping with what's around there. See, again, mansard is not a feature around that area. It's traditional hip and gable. So I think we had a look and we feel that maybe something else would be more appropriate.
Good evening, members, chair, everyone. Yeah, just following on from what Nyla said about design. We've made a conscious effort not to accept previous design quality just because we've accepted it in the past. So we are striving towards improving the design quality in the town. And that does mean taking a harder stance, even on applications that we previously approved. And that's what's happened in this situation.
Okay. Yeah. Stuart.
So just a follow-up question for the officers. Do you know what the changes are between this application and the one done several years ago? Is there any major changes or?
Yeah, before I think it was a bit more traditional with dormers as being in the roof, so it wasn't as bulky. The materials look different, the fenestration changes are different. It was different kind of detailing in terms of the design. So I think I did cover it in the report. I think I did put some of the previous scheme in there as a comparison. But yeah, we feel that this is a bit more bulky and it's not necessarily adding to the appearance of the existing building. I think it could be better and we need to probably go back to the drawing board on it a bit more.
David, thanks.
There are a number of issues with this application for me. I mean, I've already mentioned the floor space standards are not met on at least two of the flats. The mix of 1 and 2 bedroom flats isn't what we're really looking for. And I have never seen a well-designed mansard roof. It's pretty ugly at the best of times. And certainly in an environment where it's almost entirely residential, mansard roofs are not my idea of a well-designed building.
Any further comments? And there being no further comments, the recommendation is to refuse with the conditions attached to Appendix 1. I therefore move refusal. Is that seconded?
Seconded, Chair.
Are you doing the vote, Eunice?
Yes, Chair. So starting with Councillor Akan, for or against?
For the recommendation.
Councillor Ajisola,
For the recommendation.
Councillor Bridget,
For.
Councillor Chaudhry,
For.
Councillor France,
For.
Councillor Mead,
For.
Councillor Miller,
For.
Councillor Steer,
For.
Councillor Taylor.
For.
That's carried.
And that's unanimous. So planning permission has been refused and the conditions are attached to Appendix 1. Okay, thank you very much. I will go back now to, can I find the page? Scale of charges, page 15.
Thank you, Chair. The report in front of you tonight presents the proposed scale of charges for the next financial year 24-25. The service provides, obviously addresses planning applications, but also provides a pre-application advice service as well. So the development control application fees are split between discretionary charges and statutory charges. In relation to the discretionary charges, there are no proposals to increase any charges next financial year. The government has introduced significant increases to the statutory charges that we levy, and they came into effect from the 6th of December. And those charges cover 3 categories of application: major, minor and other. And the charges are proposed to increase between 25 and 35% across those applications. The government also introduced an automatic annual increase for those planning fees to increase annually from the 1st of April each year, commencing in April 25, in line with the Consumer Prices Index, with any increase capped at 10%. It's difficult to say how much income those increases will generate for the service, because obviously one year to another, the number and type of applications will vary and can vary quite significantly. The Chancellor's autumn statement did also say that although councils can recover the full cost of major business planning applications, in order to do so, they will need to process those applications quicker. And failure to deal with those applications quicker will mean that any fees that have been paid need to be refunded in full. So there is the possibility that we could consider a large application and not actually get any income for it. And that's something we need to be mindful of as well. In terms of the pre-application advice charges, these are all discretionary. It's a discretionary service that we provide. And again, there are no proposals to increase any charges for next year. It's entirely up to the applicant as to whether they take advantage of this service. It doesn't guarantee that an application will be approved if they do use it, but we need to keep our charges reasonable to try and encourage applicants to make use of that service where possible. So with that, Chair, in summary, no proposed increases to the discretionary charges that are the consideration of this committee tonight for next financial year. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Darren, because most of the charges are statutory anyway, which you already said about
That's right, Chair.
application.
Yeah.
And we can do that. Any questions? No questions, and we accept the report. Agreed? Then we'll go on to the next one, which I think is you, Sonny, isn't it? Or your powers of delegation. You want to add to them now?
Yeah.
If you didn't already have enough.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is item 8 on the agenda, members. It's quite a short item. It's just looking to add, as the Chair said, some more additional delegated powers. So we've looked at the Constitution, and there are some gaps in the Constitution. So this is part of trying to create a more efficient council and save on resources. And so the 2 areas where we've identified we could be delegating authorities to myself is number 1, if an application is refused, there's nothing stopping an applicant applying again with exactly the same details. The council, under legislation, does have the ability to turn away such applications and refuse to consider them, except our Constitution doesn't pick that up. So this is seeking your agreement and approval that officers are given powers to decline to determine such applications. And the second aspect is with historic Section 106 agreements. So more recently, members will know that we've included in our recommendations where there is a Section 106 that if there isn't an agreement within 6 months, we can refuse it. And But if negotiations are going quite well and meaningfully under my approval, we can extend the time period. This has been very useful because it's helped focus applicants and developers to concentrate on resolving outstanding issues on 106s. So it's proved very well more recently for applications that we bring to your committee. But historically, there is quite a lot of applications that are, shall we say, hanging around. Nothing much is happening. You know, the applicants don't seem to be in a hurry to resolve them. And this is permissions which you've granted at your committee, and we're hoping gets developed and Section 106s get granted, and the council is able to bring income in and other benefits. So it's in our interest to try and focus minds, and if progress isn't being made, officers are given powers to refuse permission or even bring it back to committee for members to further decide. So these are the two extra areas of delegation we're seeking your approval from. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can understand that, especially the time limit of six months to the date determined. We got quite a few sites in Luton that we gave permission to, looking at Cumberland Street, Flowers Way, to name two. It's probably more than that. And you know, people ask me what's happening to these sites, and but yeah, any questions on that, David?
Yep, only one. Is it within the powers of this committee to make this, or does it have to go elsewhere because it's a constitutional change?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. No, this committee can deal with the delegations that it feels can be delegated down to the head of planning via the powers it has as a committee that are based in the Constitution. So no, it doesn't need to be ratified by anyone else. Thank you, Chairman.
Providing Sonny informs us if this situation happens, that you've decided to, you're minded to refuse an application because they've not signed the Section 106 agreement. When we know. Any further? Yeah, Francis.
Chair, do you say that would get reported to committee if that came about?
Yeah.
So, right, okay, yeah. Right.
To email members, yeah, rather than just, yeah, that he's made a decision under delegated authority to refuse application of et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, yeah. We accept it rather than approve it, don't we? So we accept the report. You agreed? Thank you very much. That's the extent of the business tonight. See you all next time, which I'm assured is there will be planning applications.
There will.